President Trump returned from the G7 early to monitor the latest in the conflict between Israel and Iran, what the administration is saying about next steps. Plus, the Arkansas baseball team stays alive in the College World Series. More on what is next as they face another elimination game.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News at Noon.
Well, hey, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for your 5 News at Noon. I'm Tiffany Lee, here with meteorologist Danny Cassidy. Or Danny, one thing is for sure, while we're a few days from summer, yes, it feels like it out there.
It certainly feels like it out there, but we do have a little bit of rain to cool us off in some areas, especially in northwest Arkansas. But where it's not raining, it is darn gosh, hot out there. We'll put it that way. You can see where it is raining. You say Fayetteville is at 69. Yeah, it's a little bit cooler there where it's raining, but where it's not, you can see mid to upper 90s here in the southeastern portion of the River Valley, close to 100 there in Boonville, and even in northwest Arkansas, mid to upper 80s there, 89 in Huntsville, 93 in Van Buren. So again, where it's raining right now is along I-49, along just kind of areas, again, Fayetteville as well as Springdale, Johnson, kind of all the way down the I-49 corridor, mainly in northwest Arkansas, but it is trickling a little bit of the River Valley as well. Now it is weakening as it moves from west to east, and eventually I think by the time it moves east to I-49 it will weaken, but for right now, as you see on our cameras here, we're seeing quite a bit of some moderate to heavy rainfall start to fall. But big picture, looking at this, we're starting to see some storms develop already in portions of Kansas, and that eventually will make its way here later this afternoon, or I should say later this evening into the overnight hours. And that'll lead us for a chance of severe weather not only tonight, but for the day tomorrow as well. And you notice this risk has expanded and the level 3 risk has been introduced for portions of northwestern Benton County. So we'll talk about the severe weather risks as well as the heat that's on the way here coming up in your full forecast. Tiffany.
All right, thank you so much for that, Danny. Well, this morning, Grant Hardin made his first court appearance in an Izard County courtroom since his capture following his nearly 2 weeks on the run from prison at the North Central Unit in Calico Rock. The former police chief appeared via Zoom to enter a not guilty plea on second-degree escape charges in front of Judge Tim Weaver. He was serving time for murder and rape when he escaped on May 25th. Hardin spent nearly 2 weeks on the run until search teams were able to track him down, hiding in the National Forest about 1.5 miles from the prison. The State Prison Board also announced last week that it's launching its own internal investigation into how he escaped. Well, President Trump has returned to Washington to monitor the latest developments between Israel and Iran. He left the G7 summit in Canada early as the conflict enters its 5th day now. More than 200 people in Iran have been killed so far, and at least 24 have been killed in Israel. Natalie Brandt has the latest.
A cloud of black smoke billowed over the central Israeli city of Herzliya as Iran and Israel continue to trade strikes, while Israel's air defense is intercepting many of the missiles. Some were getting through. An Iranian missile slammed into a block of apartments Monday.
I'm not prepared. Israelis don't want terror. We want peace.
The Israeli military says it continues to target military sites in Iran. But blasts on Monday also shook Iran state TV during a live broadcast. President Trump on social media urged people in Tehran to evacuate.
I just want people to be safe.
The president, speaking to reporters on Air Force One this morning, said he decided to leave the G7 summit early to monitor and discuss developments in person.
The Pentagon has increased its defensive posture in the region, saying protecting American forces is the top priority. But officials tell CBS News the U.S. is not joining Israel offensively in its military operation.
President Trump said he wants what he called a real end to Iran's nuclear program.
Look at it better than ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple.
At Iran's border with Iraq, CBS News' Holly Williams spoke to Iranians who are stockpiling food and gas, some saying they believe the Iranian regime is frightened. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
Well, in a statement issued late last night, the group of 7 nations expressed support for Israel's right to defend itself and labeled Iran as a source of instability in the Middle East. Well, the fight over the deployment of the National Guard in California heads back to the courtroom today. This comes after President Donald Trump federalized troops in response to protests in Los Angeles over recent immigration raids. That move was blocked last week by a federal judge, only for the decision to be quickly reversed by an appeals court. Today, a 3-judge panel will hear the dispute between the president and California Governor Gavin Newsom. Well, in Minnesota, authorities say that the man who allegedly killed a Democratic legislator and wounded a state senator also targeted several other officials. Vance Bolter was taken to federal court yesterday to face murder and stalking charges. That's on top of state charges of murder and attempted murder. Lilia Luciano was in the court for his appearance.
Belter stalked his victims like prey.
Prosecutors say 57-year-old Vance Belter carefully planned his Saturday morning attack on not 2, but at least 4 Minnesota Democratic state lawmakers and their families.
He researched his victims and their families. He used the internet and other tools to find their addresses and names, the names of their family members.
Authorities allege the suspect, disguised as police and wearing a hyper-realistic mask, started at Senator John Hoffman's home.
When Senator Hoffman attempted to push Belter out and stop him from entering his home, Belter shot him repeatedly.
The couple was seriously wounded. After fleeing, surveillance video appears to show Belter ringing the doorbell of another lawmaker's home, but they weren't there. At a third politician's house, the suspect was approached by a police officer doing a safety check on the representative. Belter allegedly stayed in his car, disguised as a police vehicle, and left before backup arrived. Shortly after, the suspect made his 4th stop at Representative Melissa Hortman's home in Brooklyn Park. When police, dispatched as a precaution, arrived, the suspect was at the front door and began firing. He charged into the house, killing the couple before escaping on foot. The massive manhunt came to an end when Belter surrendered to police Sunday night, crawling out of the woods near his home southwest of Minneapolis.
Law enforcement just deserves a ton of credit.
Brooklyn Park Mayor Holly Winston worked closely with Representative Hortman.
When you think about that legacy, what word comes to mind?
I can't give you one word, but I'd say understated, empathy. There's not a lot of politicians who are authentic.
Investigators have said that those lists, those names included those of lawmakers beyond the state of Minnesota, of abortion rights advocates and providers. And although those investigators are not talking about motive, officials here in the state of Minnesota have said that this was politically motivated. Belter is due back in that federal court next Friday, June 27th. Lilia Luciano, CBS News, Minneapolis.
Well, meanwhile, lawmakers here in Arkansas are responding to the recent events in Minnesota. State Senator Kim Hammer says that there is zero tolerance for these attacks. He says he feels safe inside the Capitol thanks to law enforcement there, but when lawmakers go home, that protection is not the same.
The individuals that were killed, they were in the privacy of their home, and it does certainly sound the wake-up call that we have to be diligent.
Threats to our state's political figures are not a new thing to Arkansas. Notably, in 2008, a gunman shot and killed former state senator Bill Gwatney. The shooter, Timothy Johnson, died after a car chase and shootout with police. Then in 2019, family found former Republican state senator Linda Collins Smith stabbed in her driveway. A former campaign worker, Rebecca O'Donnell, would later plead guilty to her murder. Well, the Diamond Hogs are still alive at the College World Series, thanks in part to a historic pitching performance. It was win or go home for the Razorbacks as they took on Murray State for a chance to stay in Omaha for at least one more night. Starter Gage Wood collected 19 strikeouts on his way to throwing a no-hitter, just the 3rd in the College World Series history. Meanwhile, the Hogs put up 3 runs on offense as they topped Murray State 3-0. And we don't know yet who the Hogs will be playing. It'll either be LSU or UCLA. That game was suspended due to weather. It resumed at 10 this morning, so we're waiting for that outcome. Right now, LSU is leading that game in the 8th inning. The Hogs will take on the loser of that one tonight at 6 on ESPN. Well, an Alma preschool teacher is under investigation, accused of kicking a child with developmental disabilities. The mother says she saw it happen on surveillance video, and now she's demanding action. Ariel Bentley says her 4-year-old son Draco, who has a speech delay, described the incident during a car ride home on May 15th. She says surveillance video confirmed what he told her. Bentley claimed that the school showed her the footage, but then refused to provide a copy, citing privacy concerns over another student also being in frame.
You can see her just kick 3 times really fast. I think it was harder than they thought it was. It does look like she kicked him pretty hard.
5 News reached out to Stepping Stone for an interview. The school declined, but shared a written statement saying in part, staff are trained regularly and video surveillance of the incident will not be released due to privacy concerns. Bentley has since filed a police report with hopes that Alma PD can subpoena the footage. Arkansas State Police are sending out a warning for both kids and parents. We're just halfway through the year and already they're seeing a dramatic rise in sextortion reports. In 2024, State Police had 169 reports of sextortion from the National Center for Missing Exploited Children. This year, we're already at 170. Sextortion is when criminals threaten to share intimate photos or videos unless victims follow their demands. Those demands typically call for money, but Sergeant Corwin Battle with State Police says a new trend is emerging.
There are sadistic groups that basically want these images so they can get these children to cause self-harm to themselves or do specific acts. They may be, cutting themselves or just doing things with animals or other juveniles.
Most victims are boys. Sergeant Battle says girls are also affected. Police urge parents to stay alert and keep open, supportive conversations with their kids. Well, Fayetteville city leaders are set to consider a resolution targeting immediate solutions for homelessness. But the plan is facing pushback from some community members. Councilmember Sarah Moore is putting a resolution forward that would fund a safe camping site for up to 40 people with tents and support services and a $600,000 pilot program. Fayetteville Seven Hills Homeless Center is against the proposal. In a letter posted to Facebook, Seven Hills calls for a more permanent solution, including the establishment of tiny home communities. Moore says she welcomes those ideas, but stresses that a long-term response is still needed.
I'm being realistic, and I hope all of us will, to hold hands and recognize those aren't coming together in the next several months. There's a part of our population that's incredibly vulnerable, that maybe has chronic illness, that's living outside in unsafe conditions.
The council plans to discuss the proposal at 5:30 today. Seven Hills is urging supporters to attend and ask for a delay to allow more collaboration with the city. Well, today the Fort Smith Board of Directors will vote on a new sewer rate schedule for the town of Arkoma. Earlier this month, Fort Smith directors decided to temporarily pause a major increase in sewer bills. Now the board is looking at 2 options for raising rates. Arkoma's vice mayor says that the town has been working to manage its wastewater debt, but some on the board have said a rate hike is necessary to avoid subsidizing the smaller town.